Okay, good morning, everybody. It's about 10 to 12 on Election Day, November 8th. We're at the Board of Elections. We're having a public meeting. We have a quorum, and we have a short but important agenda. Margaret, you want to take the first topic? The selection of polling?
Oh, yeah.
What we're doing is we're selecting polling places to be ordered prior to certification. How many do we do?
25.
Now, the important,
Three apiece.
and you cannot look at the number that you're drawn, and neither can Margaret.
Right.
So we each take 3?
So we need to make sure you get 3.
So I'll do one by
Are they
one.
more than one envelope?
So one, I made sure it was one.
That's a good way to do it.
2, and 3.
That one. Okay. I'm just trying to make sure I'm not picking up more than one. It's really hard. Okay. Every precinct is represented?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
And early voting sites.
And early voting sites too.
Okay.
Okay. Oh, it's hard to make sure you have one.
I know.
You know?
That's why I use two. I use two hands.
Yeah.
With the star.
So that's okay. I don't see it. I don't see it. That's 2.
The red pin, and the tie.
Is that just 1?
and the hat.
Okay.
You're selecting
Taking
2?
a
3.
picture with
But 2 was stuck together.
dressed to a T.
3.
I gotta get 3 extra. 4 extra.
The red pin.
Notice my red, white, and
I
blue.
know. That's what reminded me. That's what reminded me.
I know.
It was really nice.
Take care of it in calls.
What?
Oh, that's
Anything?
hysterical.
Of the United
Look at
States
that.
of America. Democracy.
Jen, how about your nails? I want to see.
We did a better job.
We can fix it right now.
He's going to paint it.
We can get you those.
That's funny.
I'm sorry. Was it? Okay. So 3 times 7 is 21.
Worry about
Kevin?
class for high school because our scanner went
Which
down.
one?
Class first.
I'm going to wash my hands.
I need for you to draw one.
Okay. And draw one.
Oh, just draw one.
Okay, thank you.
Bunch of different vendor products.
You just have one there?
That's one. I think so.
Good thing I asked.
David.
Good thing I asked. Why? Because I would have just naturally.
Okay, there you go.
Thank you.
Okay.
How many did we draw?
25.
Okay.
Right?
I nicked it already.
Leah Sophia.
Very nice.
So can we go to the update on the Election Day activities?
Well,
Board?
from what I
Okay.
can tell, everything opened
Jack?
on time.
Jackie? Yeah. Margaret's going to report to us on an update for today.
Everything opened on time. We had approximately a half a dozen scanner units have some sort of technical issue. We had to replace 2.
We only replaced one. We sent one out, and in the meantime, they got it working. So
Okay,
we didn't need to replace any in the end.
So
Was that
basic.
Blacksburg one of them?
That was
That
at.
was one of mine.
Oh, 610. Anyway,
right.
Just wondering.
Great Seneca Creek Elementary School 610.
Yes.
Those scanners were down.
Both?
so
At one point they were.
So the rest of them were ballot jams, and we were able to get those resolved. Most of our polling book issues were resolved last night and this morning. I'm not aware of having to send out any more poll books yet today, so that's a good sign. And aside from just, generalized complaints in terms of people thought there wasn't adequate enough equipment, or they wanted more people at the polling places to process people faster. They thought the lines were too long at the beginning. Those were, and you followed up on an issue down at 047 Meadow Hall.
Yeah, they have a gentleman down there who's sitting in a chair with a sign basically saying, "Stop voter fraud, only U.S. citizens vote." He allegedly made a comment when someone was coming in with a Hillary Clinton sticker that, to lock her up, and they got into a back and forth.
A verbal back and forth?
Yeah.
What precinct is this?
Meadow Hall down in Rockville, right
47.
by the old.
427.
He's sitting outside the electioneering zone?
Yeah, and when I got there, he was just sitting there with a sign. It wasn't doing anything, wasn't saying anything. I talked to some of the people that were there, and they said, well, things have kind of calmed down. And I gave him my card with my cell phone number and said, give us a call if anything comes up.
And who called you to begin with?
The media did, and the media's there, and the media interviewed the guy with the sign and myself.
Do you have a name for the guy?
Margie does.
What guy? The media guy? Oh, the other
Who was
guy.
that
You want the
media?
name of the other guy. I don't know what the name of the sign holder is now.
No, I didn't. Again, the guy was not doing anything other than holding the sign. So not anything we could do about that. And but I told the chief judge to call us if there were any issues. But he said things had calmed down and had been calm for a couple hours. I think it was just interaction between this guy and two voters that came into the polling place. Stop voter fraud. Only U.S. citizens vote. Something to that effect. So that was one issue. But I said the two scanners went down at Great Seneca Creek Elementary School. They were down. They used the ballot box, but by the time I got there, both scanners were back working, and there was no line at all there. So
Had they been putting the ballots in the tray?
They had been.
the repair of the
Yeah.
What was determined by our team was that the scanners had been opened and kind of shoved up against the wall. They were too close to the wall.
Breaking
And in the back, there's a flap that needs to be opened for ventilation. And I gather that it was raised, and so the scanners were actually overheating in that polling place.
And then turned off.
They weren't accepting ballots. I've gotten sort of different descriptions of what exactly they were encountering. But we did authorize them to open the emergency bin, but ultimately, once they were pulled away from the wall and allowed to cool down, I'm not entirely sure what other steps were taken in between.
No.
But they were back up and running again. But in the meantime, my understanding is that there's probably 200, 250 pieces of paper in those emergency bins at the two scanners.
Is that the one I was there, or is it that the different one? The scanner was down, so somebody came over and fixed it?
That's the one where they were
The
both
one,
pushed
yeah.
up against the
Yeah.
wall and
I
overheating,
was there, yeah.
so they weren't accepting ballots.
Yeah, but overall,
yeah.
what I saw was 1321, 508, 1009, 514 all had sort of minor scanner issues, but were all, one was finicky, you had to put it in a different way, but with two scanners there, it didn't seem that it was causing any great line. Most of them are functioning just fine, and very few electioneering issues. Ironically, the only one I heard this morning was from the Democratic chair at Our Lady of Mercy, who was complaining that the electioneering line was too close to the door.
Who was it?
The Democratic
Democrat
chair
complained. What's wrong with
said
them?
that he thought it was too close to the door. He wanted it moved further back. But other than that, and then the only other electioneering issue is at Riderwood. We're having a spirited debate over whether they should be able to sit inside or not.
Yeah, what's the story on that one?
They've agreed to do that, but obviously after the election, they're going to have to decide what they're going to do in terms of whether the new management, they have a new management company there, and the new management company does not like the practice of having electioneering inside the building, and so they're going to have to decide what they want to do. We allow it in other places, really as an accommodation, one, to the people that are doing the electioneering, and the realities of the fact that in a lot of these facilities you don't need to go outside.
Right.
And didn't we have a prior agreement with the management of Riderwood that
Previous
allowed
Yes,
us?
with the previous management
Previous.
company.
Okay. Did we not know that it had changed until we got a concern or
We
something?
heard about it, was it
Very recently.
Thursday?
Yeah, very recently.
And we went out there Friday to talk to them,
Uh-huh.
and they set up an area where people could do electioneering, but then they weren't going to allow any chairs or tables. But now they've got chairs.
They've got 10 chairs out there. They've been cooperative. They're just, this is a new group. They've got, there's like, hey, we have a no solicitation policy. And I said, well, you do one every day that other than election day.
Yeah.
You're a polling place.
Right.
You don't get to pick and choose that.
Not to mention for a senior community to say no chairs is
Yeah.
kind of ridiculous.
One of the Seneca Lake, one of the voters left the page 2, all the questionnaire in the booth. They found out by itself, did not scan it. So, what do you think that they should scan? The chief judge should go scan that
It's a spoiled
unmarked,
Spoiled ballot.
spoil the ballot.
Ballot.
I told him at least document this one.
Spoil it.
What did you
write
say?
it
I
down?
said, can I use?
Yeah.
Can I
Spoiled
reuse
ballot.
Do
it?
you want to take a break?
What if
So-
it scanned, the first page was scanned? Is it
Yeah, we'll take a break.
The Facebook.
So
No, we should do, look, I understand we have our lunches ready. Let's take a break. Let's take a
So-
recess and come back right after.
Margaret, would you do me a favor? We'll have somebody call that chief judge. Her name is Susan, and tell her spoiled the ballot.
Where's this at?
Lake 0204.
Okay,
204.
Yeah.
okay.
It's a
All right, we-
popular
Yeah, I
place today.
guess.
We're gonna take a break. Okay.
Okay,
Okay, we've recessed. We're back at 20 to 1, and we're continuing our board meeting. Margaret.
traditionally, in the voting behavior of the residents of Montgomery County, are high voter turnout in the first 3 hours,
Right.
slight little bump around lunchtime, and then a very slight bump at 5 o'clock. The only precincts that ever have any type of turnout would be justified would be Clarksburg High School or something in the 2s and 12s. But, I mean, it dies off in 13s and 7s and 4s.
But during the recess, you mentioned that we are getting more booths.
You're getting more booths at Clarksburg High School and at Meadow Hall.
Can we get more sleeves too, please?
We'll do our best.
For Clarksburg.
The problem is that I just 20 minutes ago already sent somebody who didn't say anything about sleeves.
I can take them.
Okay, great. You
Yeah,
can
I can
take
take
them.
them.
Okay, so do we have any more updates from anybody on Election Day activities?
Let's see, updates. The longest line I saw was at 726, which was at Friendship Heights Village Center. It was about 300 people long at 7:30. So I mean, not completely unexpected, and it seemed orderly, but it was a long wait. Everything else, the lines were moderate, no more than 50, and by the time I got into the 8:30, 9 o'clock hour, it was very, very sparse and quiet. So. My visitor from the Arab American Anti-Discrimination Committee showed up a little late. It was not exactly the same person that was mentioned in the letter, but I met with him, told him how elections work in Maryland, and he seemed fine with that. So.
Good.
I had one place where 2 judges, one kid and one judge, and that was 1334 Kensington Town Hall. They were making do, but she was very unhappy about that. At 1303, she said the VOB who brings in the stuff in the evening. Is that correct?
There's 2 different judges. There's one that brings in the flash drive and the ballots, and then there's the closer judge who brings back everything else.
She pushed very hard on me that ought to be 2 in case something happened to one of them, that they should be together or something. Just pass it on.
Can she recruit that person?
I just smiled and said I'd tell you.
Okay, thank you.
And then in Kensington Parkwood Elementary School, There is a whole lot of parking that could be had at the back of that school. There's a gate across it that is removable, and the whole playground could be parking. And people were parking and having to go down 2 big flights of steps or parking several blocks away. And I came out the back door inadvertently, and people could go in that door, and there would at least 40, 45, 50 parking places on the back if they removed the gate. And it looked removable when I walked out that way.
Okay.
Naheed, anything?
That 10-12, one of the judges didn't show up, so they said if they can get help, they will appreciate. 10-12. I don't know which one was it. There was a line on scanner, Whitman. I don't know which one Walt Whitman is. Something. So it was really long, like a snake going around. You rearrange a little bit the booth that can give them more room. Otherwise, they were managing it.
I think actually that reminds me, 726 they had 1 or 2 judges that didn't show up, but there was a roamer there too who said she was working on trying to get them an extra person there too, if they could. Okay.
1331 had 2 judges that didn't show, and they were the ones who were having a terrible time getting the ballot tear off, and complained that they ought to make the tear off easier.
Yeah,
Some people actually said that to me too.
yeah. I was at.
I heard that during early
Yeah, at
voting.
Leisure World, they were having trouble tearing off the ballot, and a number of them, I think there was about 15 or 20, they couldn't scan because they were frayed at the edges.
You need to turn them over and put the other end in.
But anyway, I was at 1353 Sligo Middle School, and they had about 150 voters, like in an hour. Then it calmed down, and by 9 o'clock, it was like 3 people in line. And I was at the 3 voting sites in Leisure World, and it was just starting to pick up when I decided to head back here for our meeting.
Let me ask you about that. Can anybody go to any one of those 3 in
No.
Leisure World?
No.
They're assigned.
Yeah.
Yeah, yes. But very organized. The staffs there are excellent. They just really have it together at Leisure World, I thought, this morning, anyway. And people were just starting to come out. Van Hollen was there, and Francho, and Phil Kaufman, Roger Mano. So the candidates, everything was starting to percolate about 10:30ish. But smooth.
It's going to make that up.
Mary Ann, anything?
Crowds, but nothing. There were some things I phoned into Margaret, got taken care of right away. Parkside had the printer on the one poll book that didn't work, and Margaret already knew about that. Garrett Park had huge crowds, like I'd never seen there before, but it was humming along. They wanted more people. I mean, everybody wants more people when they see lines. Richard Montgomery, on the other hand, had nothing. I mean, it was just, I couldn't believe how empty it was.
Surprise.
And I got there at, about 10 o'clock. I'll tell you something that my other one is Julius West, which was the biggest problem that I had, where I spent over an hour working on the ballot table, just because they didn't have enough people. They had one person, for example, that was doing ballots, and that's never going to work. And they were down a person for their poll book, but I worked with the chief judge in terms of moving people around. There were people doing things that they didn't need them, and trying to keep an eye on that. I'm going to check back there as well. An issue that I first encountered last night and talked to Allison about, and I saw it in 2 other locations today, the handicap plates on the doors are not working in these schools. And I find that amazing. Garrett Parks was not working today, Richard Montgomery's was not working, and last night, which one was it? It was Wooten. Wooten's, they just removed the whole thing. You can see where it's no longer in place. The police are here for you.
Yes.
Are we in trouble?
We have a lawyer.
What do you mean the door wasn't there?
They actually took the plate off that opened the door for handicapped people.
So there was no.
What we arranged though, and
Maybe it's the wrong door.
so they were going to have, thank gosh, with the nice weather today, they had a big door stop that they were going to put in place there, and they were going to put one of the students there at the door because it's a very nice area where lots of handicapped parking, and there's a ramp for handicapped to go up. So having them come in some other entrance to a school like Wooten, where they'd have to walk a mile to get to where the voting is, would not be the issue. But I just raise it because
The press plates are being phased out.
Is that
Because
it?
they are a compromise to the student security. And they're being replaced with these types of door handles that have, as long as the pull pressure is less than a certain amount of poundage. But the press plates are being removed from the schools because they are, they compromise the security of strangers coming into the facility.
Oh, I had not heard
Because
that.
if they turn it on, then there's no way for them to prevent someone who doesn't belong in the school. So that's why they're switching to these handles.
Oh, it's a
Well,
there.
But
they didn't have that kind of a handle. They had a door that you push it.
Well, Mary Ann, when I was at
still
7-Eleven this morning, their school is not ADA compliant, so they just propped the door open on the back end.
Which school is this?
Somerset, I think it's Somerset. Somerset Elementary.
Wow.
Well, that's what the chief judge said. Well, why is the
There's
door?
not a building in Montgomery County
That is
not ADA compliant because they all went through an extensive Department of Justice review of every public building in Montgomery County about 6 years ago. And the county is in a consent decree to make sure that they have every building as ADA compliant.
And when we surveyed the facility, I can tell you exactly which door is ADA compliant.
But they might be ADA compliant, but it might not be the day of the election.
Well,
Does
that
that
was the
make
question
sense?
I asked, whether you can deactivate that.
You can, but it has to be centralized.
But Margaret's now telling us that they are doing
are
away with
getting rid
these.
of the
What I
press
encountered at
plates.
Wooten, they've removed the plate and everything. There's no
Well, that's because they don't want strangers coming into that facility.
But it's control. It's a centralized thing. They can, like Northwest High School, they can do it from the main office of the school. So you have to arrange with the office, with the main office of the school,
We do.
to do it. And you just have to the night before talk to
If
the.
you don't have the plate, though, how do you get into the building?
I don't know about that, but
There's normally a
like.
button you push.
It's a door that you push the bar.
But then
to,
does it
to
open automatically?
But no, there's nothing automatic about it.
Well,
I mean,
then
you
there's-
got to.
there's
They're
one
propping
that's not
right now.
ADA.
They're propping it open.
Well, all I know is that, and it's probably more than 6 years ago, but the Department of Justice went ahead and had an extensive review of election sites, and then that review turned, thankfully, from the Board of Elections to Montgomery County and the various public buildings in Montgomery County, including the schools. And at that time, the county had gone through an extensive ADA compliance review process that went on for years.
I don't have the button.
Was that because there was widespread non-compliance?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
You get on the radar screen, and it's sometimes tough to get off the radar screen.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They have these door handles.
That's all I had.
Dave? I started the morning by visiting Tacoma Park Rec Center, which you may recall we spent a lot of time talking about their parking. And I want to first thank the staff because it still was very difficult, but it was way better than it would have been. I mean, I was able to find a parking space. In the area, the signs are up that say that it's for the temporary parking until 4:30. The judges are parked in a different location. Still, it's a very difficult site in terms of people parking and leaving and going in different directions and all of that. I also heard that an army of Board of Elections people were there last night to fix an electrical issue that was that was going on. And I know that was also appreciated. They did have very long lines, in excess of an hour's wait for much of the time, and usually the line was at the scanner, they had 2 scanners, so it wasn't. I mean, obviously we don't have an unlimited supply of scanners. Although I'm sure that if we did, it would make a difference. They were very short on people, I went to another precinct that's not too far from there, where they had almost no lines during the course of the day, and at their peak they got everybody through in 30 minutes, and they had 14 people, and I guess so. The question would be, and I realize it's hard to predict what we need, but the question would be whether people either can be whether our allocation of people can be affected. I gather we don't have people in reserve that we can say, go to this place and help.
Yes, we do.
Oh, you do? Okay. Well.
And we send them.
Okay. Well.
But it's incumbent upon the chief judge.
Okay.
To call us either the night before.
Okay.
Or at 6 o'clock in the morning and
Okay.
say, I have a vacancy.
Okay.
Having you come here at 11 o'clock, a lot of the individuals that we had in reserve are gone, and there may not be enough people to send, even though we have at least 100 or so people in reserve to go to the polling place.
Okay. Well, the chief judge at the location where that was highly staffed had asked for extra people. Used to be the chief judge at the rec center, wanted to return to the rec center, she said, but was told that she was needed in her home precinct. And I assume that if she were in the rec center, she probably would have been the one calling in and saying, that she needs extra people. And they were making the most with what they had.
Which site had plenty of people?
Highland Park. Anyway, I'll just leave it there.
Those are small, aren't they? Are they small locations, physically small?
Do you mean the rooms?
The rooms.
The room at Highland Park was pretty small. Yeah. The room at the rec center was not. The room at the rec center was a basketball court.
Oh.
The issue there was that the lines, they were having people enter and exit through the same door. And the lines were kind of interfering. Every time someone had to leave, you couldn't arrive and leave at the same time because the line was taking up all the space to go by. And I suggested to the chief judge that you have another door that you could use as an exit, but he didn't want to rearrange everything. This was already this morning. He didn't want to, and he also didn't want to stop what he was doing in order to do it because he still had a line of people. So. Anyway, smartest thing that this board may have ever done was going for the 2 scanners.
Yes, isn't that the truth?
Lots of compliments from people about the fact that there's 2. Of course, everyone wants 3. But,
yes.
But I mean, it was obviously very important that we had the 2 because we would have much bigger problems if we didn't.
Oh, it would have been just a nightmare, a major proportion if we'd been left with the 1.
Major accomplishment.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Great.
Okay.
Dave, you done?
Yeah.
Gracie?
Last night things went smoothly in a couple precincts, like Kingsview Middle School. I was a little worried because they were down 5 people that did not show up.
What school?
So Kingsview Middle School, right next to the Germantown Early Voting Center. So the judge called it in, and she was hoping and praying that she was going to get some people in. I don't know how many voters they have. I'm not sure.
The problem with King, it's not that they have a lot of voters, because they all vote or during
early voting, right?
It's they have a high number of provisionals, because everybody wants to vote at the Germantown rec center, there's
they
no
go,
voting there.
and they do, yeah.
So they just decide to go to Kingsview.
Yeah. So, couple issues with polling books, but Gray Romer, Ken Knob is such a good roamer. He's like on top of everything. We had a possessed phone at Northwest High School. It kept ringing and ringing and ringing and ringing nonstop. It was kind of scary. And it wasn't working well, but I think Ken got them all that. They set up nicely. This morning I went to Clarksburg High School. I thought I was just going to go and then go over to Rocky Hill, but they're very short staffed. I don't think they're missing anybody, but they have about 11 people, and there's 4 polling people, 2 people giving out ballots, and then somebody doing provisional, and then 2 people at the scanner. They have students, and they're great for the lines, telling people to turn off their phones and on the outstrip, and then one of those people is leaving at 1, so for the scanner. But major issue at Clarksburg was the whole parking situation, because it's the front of the building, you can park, so people parked in threes. Like the first 2 people going out were fine, right? Because you can back up and go around, and the people in front can go ahead. But then people park at 1, 2, and then 3. So the people in the middle are all sandwiched in. So I had to go out there, and because people, wanted to leave, and some people, and we have a lot of provisionals at Clarksburg, who were supposed to either vote in Little Bennett or Clarksburg Elementary, who don't want to go. They already were in line. They want to vote there.
So they were taking a long time to vote.
So they were taking a long time, so we had to ask people to move their cars. There's plenty of parking on the other side of the school. I mean, there's no reason why people cannot park. My issue was, and it still is with Clarksburg High School, is the handicap access of parking. Not the handicap access into the building, but parking, because you have those little signs that say park here on the curb, but you cannot, when you're driving, you cannot see it. And it's just the people had parked all the way up to the curb. The people could not pull in to park handicapped. Does that make sense? And so I had actually a voter who, the mom came to try to vote, couldn't find the handicap parking from the other side of the school. And there's no entrance from that side into the school. So it's a really long walk that you have to do. So she went home, and her daughter brought her in, and her daughter was just livid, and she said, "I can't believe that you guys don't have access." I said, "She could park, she said, "How am I supposed to know that? Because the cars are blocking the handicap parking little sign, you cannot see it." So for places like Clarksburg, we're going to have to get better signage. I think we need to talk to the state to make them a little taller, or to actually have, because you have the pillars, so if you have like a handicap, like parking, that's a handicap parking, you can put it on those pillars, and people would know that they can park in front of that. I mean, I think there's ways of doing it with that precinct, at least the way it's set up.
Well, that would be something that should be advocated with the state board, because they're the ones that purchase those signs.
Yeah. And then just a couple of issues with lectionary lines, and I called Kevin, and this lady was very adamant about the fact that it was 100 feet, and that was the law, and she talked to the state board, and the state board told her it was 100 feet, so she came back in, and, here we are, like, at the busiest time, trying to get people through, right. And she comes back in again, "I need to talk to you," across the room, and so I, went out again, and I got Kevin on the line, and she said, "It's supposed to be 100 feet. He needs to move. You need to move." I said, "No, we're not moving. This is, just 25 to 100. I gave her the number to call here. And then another voter.
This was a voter?
Yeah, it was a voter. So, and then another voter actually wrote, saying that.
Which precinct was that?
Clarksburg High School. That she actually did call, and she was told it was 25 to 100, so she wrote something. But that's the thing about it. I'm just a little bit concerned about the lines tonight at Clarksburg. That's all.
that would be legitimate.
Kevin, does the chief judge have discretion to make it anywhere between 25 and 100?
No, the board sets it.
Yeah.
Now, if there are issues, it's not uncommon. This is actually a very, very few issues have arisen regarding the no electioneering this time. But sometimes there's a dispute or some question as to whether it's placed in a safe area or the map really reflects where it should be, and they typically then call in, and that's when a board member gets sent out to go ahead and sort of do what I think the spirit of what the board, you all have gone through looking at these places and, so
Yeah,
think there's a
we
sentiment
reviewed
about
each
where
one,
everyone-
really.
Where everyone thinks they should be
Yep.
placed and where to be a safe area. We just don't want people, to be out in the middle of the street, nor do we want them right on top
Right.
of the door either, so
Right.
that they're impeding people getting in and out of the building.
So I don't know if there'd be a way to, if it's too late, Margaret, fine, but if it's not, to send an extra set of hands to Clarksboro High School.
I have requested that.
Thank you.
But again, those calls should have been made at 6 o'clock this morning.
But it wasn't a fact. It wasn't a fact that all the people that were supposed to be there showed up. But I don't think. I guess, and I think these are new chief judges, both of them, and they're great actually. They're really on top of things. But to even like the young woman that's leaving at 1 o'clock at the scanner, so one of the judges is either going to have to go there or going to have to hand out the ballot.
The chief judge, which is one of his jobs,
Right.
or her jobs.
Right. Well, yeah, they're pulling out the ballots, they're putting out the folders. I mean, they're all everybody's working. They're all hands on.
We are sending out extra booths. I did request additional people, but as I said, we have a finite number of people that are in reserve. People that called in at 6, 7 o'clock in the morning are going to get first dibs.
Well, presumably, if we're going around the polling places during the course of the morning and having this meeting, then there's an ability to make some adjustments, or else we wouldn't be having this meeting.
Well, except I think I called in with issues that I found
Right.
where something was broken or somebody needed more people.
And so did I. But I guess what I'm saying is that, yes, it's always better to have more advance warning. It's also better if we have more judges. But we are where we are. But I assume that we have this meeting every election day in order to make adjustments, partway through the day. And so,
I'm going to go help out.
One other issue that has just been brought to my attention, which is, please remind the judges that when they post their numbers at 11 and 4, they're supposed to be doing it by party.
yeah, there's a bunch of precincts where that's been an issue.
Really, that weren't?
They're not. I just got another email regarding, which Allison has already circled back on some of these.
Yeah.
But
I should,
that should be reminded. They're supposed to break it down by party.
I should have mentioned
Comes right out
that I gave Kevin a list of about 5 or 6 where we're told that has been an issue. I mean, people have been calling in and saying that the judges have just flat out said they won't do it in some cases.
They're not doing it, or they're just doing it as a total?
It is more difficult for them to do it at the consolidatives.
Okay.
And if the judges at the non-consolidatives are following instructions for how to do it at the consolidatives, then that is potentially where the issue could be arising.
Okay.
At a non-consolidated.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, they follow
Right.
instructions that are on that page where they
Right.
post it on the door. The actual page on the door has the instructions for the poll book and how to
Right.
print it. And if they follow those instructions, the thing that prints shows it by party.
Right.
So
Well,
if they're printing
right.
something that doesn't have party, it's because they weren't following the standard direction. But
Right.
yes,
But then if they're being asked for it by party, the best answer would be, let me call somebody to see how to do that, as opposed to we don't do it that way.
correct.
There was one polling place in Leisure World at the Chapel, 1371, where it was reported that they're still posting on the inside door instead of the outside door, which was an issue in the primary, and hopefully we can fix that so that they will be posting on the outside door so that people can see it without having to go inside.
You could tell them. You could tell them you put it outside though.
That's not one of my precincts. That was one of Jim's precincts.
Yeah, they
Doesn't
didn't mention
matter.
it at all.
Well, they didn't know it. The judges didn't know it.
Oh, okay.
It was mentioned by a citizen who said
Okay.
that they noticed that it wasn't there,
Okay.
and so I'm now reporting it so that it can be fixed.
I thought you were there,
Kevin,
so
you're
you
gonna-
would change it.
I wasn't there.
Yeah, we're going to call right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll call and get that.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that.
And the others that were sent up, we'll circle back and make sure that they're.
Yeah.
I had a couple of issues with telephones last night in my rounds. I forgot to mention that 1339, the phone was not working. We plugged it in, but they were calling and talking with the helpline. I don't know if it got resolved, but
I'm sure
it looked
they
like
were
they had it in
zero
hand or
on
they were
that.
working on it.
Was last night?
Yeah, last night. 1365, they didn't get a phone at all, but there was a roamer there, and I did speak to someone at the help desk, so they said they were going to try to get a phone out there. And then the final one was at 1316. They weren't. I think they weren't getting a dial tone on that one either, but they were working on it.
Alex, I had an issue that was like that, and I called it in. I hope it was fixed. But in 1364, they had a cell phone, but when you attempted to use it, it said that it didn't have network access.
Yeah, the same.
It's like Leisure World.
We had the same.
No, this wasn't at Leisure World. This was next to Leisure World. But then my phone, which I guess must have been on a different network, worked fine.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
same with me,
Oh,
yeah.
I'm sorry, it
I
wasn't
just fixed that
1316. I'm sorry, it was the Silver Spring Library at 1305, which we had so many problems with in the primary. Their phone, they had it, but it wasn't working in any of the jacks in the room, no dial tone. So, but she was talking with the help desk when I left, so on her cell phone, so the chief judge, so she was working on it.
When we send a cell phone out to a precinct, does it use one of the particular services? Like, are we using AT&T or Verizon, or are they all different, or do we
No,
know?
it's all the same.
All goes through
Oh, I'm sorry.
AT&T.
18.
So it may be an AT&T coverage issue. Sounds like if we have it in a number of
That's
places.
possible, because it was, I had one, same problem. Alison got
Right,
in.
'cause
I
my
guess you
phone
fixed
was
that.
Verizon, I had
Alison,
no
did
problem.
you fix that one?
Not that I mean to be a commercial
The
for
cell phone?
Verizon.
My
I'm
place
sure you
all
fixed
had
it, otherwise
regular
they would
phones,
talk.
and they work.
Yeah, no, Bacon
Go
Middle
ahead.
School also didn't get a phone,
Let's go.
and their line did not work.
Except I got in trouble, Margaret, with the help desk last night. When I called my second phone in, they said, what we're asking board members to do is to call your cell phone
Yeah, they
if the
switched.
phone works. Well, but please don't call here with it anymore. I said, oh,
Yeah, they told us not to
okay.
call.
I got
Sorry.
I need to get-
They
I
told
had
us,
somebody
they told you to
tell
stop
us
calling and telling them to put
the
the.
phone
No,
doesn't-
we were
if
told,
the phone doesn't
don't
work.
in
call
order
in.
to check.
Have the center call you on your phone. If it works,
And if
don't
it
call
works,
us.
that's fine. If it
Oh,
isn't
'cause
working, then call
I thought the
them.
instruction was
To call in.
to call in from that
That
phone.
is
was.
correct. That
That
was
is
the
correct.
email that I sent to call 85.
Yeah, that is, we always done
43.
it that way.
That was
We always
okay.
call in.
Oh,
Anyway, a lot
But
of
they
people
didn't
have
want us to call in.
people have meetings
Only if
with
they weren't
outside
working.
groups.
We were told
Okay.
exactly.
Guys, so
You go back to Clarksburg?
Yes.
we've got Alex has to meet.
Should you say we
Oh,
adjourn?
that
So
was
is there-
the police.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
I move. to adjourn.
Second?
Marianne?
All those in favor of adjourning?
Adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Alex
Second. Third.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, meeting adjourned.